Hello everyone, I'm back. Now, before I continue, I realized that in my previous 2 videos I never mentioned the subtitles at the beginning. Turn them on if you need them. Anyways, for the past few months I have been working on a new world building project for some new conlangs, and recently for some that looked revivable. Sadhu has returned with fixed phonology, now generally called Sadhu. For those of you who do not know the original Sadhu, I have made a video on it that I will have linked in the description. Sorry for any confusion caused by the similarity between those 2 words. I will tackle that later. Of the 3 languages that currently have some kind of outline, the Kakengian family is the most developed, now on version 3. Admittedly, the name Kakengian comes from a word in the first version of Kakengian that would no longer be Anglicanized as such. However, I need a name, so who cares? The name that I have given this world, Shikita-igu, is what the Proto-Sadhu call this world, adjusted from Sadhus to Sadhus phonology. As for the map itself, I had a hard time finding a good map design for my world for some time, and then it hit me that Pangaea Ultima, or Pangaea Proxima is the example map I will show you, says looks pretty cool. So I looked up Pangaea Ultima, and it is pretty good. But there are a few adjustments that I wanted to make. Seen here, though not the final product. Also, those northern, or rather southern, because I flipped it over, Great Lakes that I suggested were abandoned. And yes, I know these adjustments are very minimal, outside of the visual throw of being turned upside down and shifted south. Inaccurate to the Earth's tectonic plates, of course. Not to mention, I have since decided to only use this redone map as inspiration for my final map. The placement of my con peoples is not yet nailed down as a result of this map uncertainty. And why the Proto-Sadhu word for world, Shikita-igu? Well, because it is a tribute to the fact that Sadhu was my second ever conlang. Before I move on to some very cursory glances at the 3 conlangs that I currently have some kind of idea for, I must solve the problem of the conlangs with the name Sa dental obstruent U. From now on, the original Sadhu shall be henceforth Sadhorig. The general name of the revised version of the conlang shall be henceforth Sadudu. And lastly, the modern form of the revised version shall be henceforth Sadhu-Z. Yes, the with a Z. That being said, with my yearly allotment of shalls and henceforths exhausted, I now have a good segue into talking about the most cursory parts of Sadhu-Du, all of which, it must be said, are subject to change. So my outline for Sadhu-Du consists of light noun inflection and inflected verbs that do quite a bit of marking to make the argument clear. Verbs will conjugate for the subject and both the direct and indirect objects. The nouns will have no gender, while having prefixes for alienable and inalienable possession, and a single prefix, ga, that marks singular or plural depending on unexpected amount, like in Kiowa. Here is the current proto-language phonology. It is nothing too interesting, but I will have fun with it. In the corner is a very preliminary set of sound changes applied to the proto-language word that is the name of this world, though I am not sure if the Sadhu-Z cognate will have the same meaning yet. Proto-Kakengian, my most developed language for Shikita-igu so far, has this phonological inventory. I based it off of Proto-Indo-European, but with an aspirate distinction, velar nasal, and pharyngeal series. It has these phonotactics with some allophony. I also included a fully formed vowel harmony system based on roundness, with a being neutral. Proto-Turkic had a vowel harmony system, so this choice is not unrealistic. Kakengian's verbs are lightly inflected and tenseless. Tenseless because they use adverbs for all their tense needs, similar to English's lack of a future tense. The exact amount of inflection also depends on whether the verb is a being or doing verb. Nouns, on the other hand, are inflected greatly and fusionally. There are 4 genders based on animacy, from highest to lowest: stellar, human, living, and dead. The naming system comes from the creation story of the Kakengian people. The combination of the 4 genders and the nasal stem created by the phonotactics results in the 8 declensions. Notably, Kakengian uses octal base 8 for its numbers because I was looking for a body part that added up to something other than 10. In my searching, I learned about an extinct Native American language called Yuki with an octal number system because they counted the spaces between the fingers rather than the fingers themselves. Yeah, about that, like counting the spaces between the fingers rather than the fingers themselves. Like, that absolutely blew my mind. It was so innovative and so interesting that I just had to include it as my base for Proto-Kakengian and subsequently all other Kakengian languages. The last language I have anything for is called Proto-Island at the moment, though I have been thinking about putting them in the mountains somewhere. This phonology is literally all I have for it. It is based partially on Cayuga, which has 0 labials whatsoever. Anyways, that is all I have for you today. I hope you found this cursory overview interesting. Thanks for watching, everyone.